Your average day is being eaten alive by habits you don't even notice. The average person is now spending about 6 hours 45 minutes a day on screens, and the average American checks their phone about 96 times a day. And while you're doing that, about 32.8% of US adults are running on fewer than 7 hours of sleep, so you're overstimulated, under-rested, and then confused why your energy, focus, and mood feel broken. That's why these Japanese daily habits hit like a cheat code. They don't rely on motivation. They rebuild your day's machinery from morning to night with tiny routines that compound fast. 30. The light first morning. Open the curtains, get outside, and let your body recalibrate. Most people wake up and immediately stare into a glowing rectangle like it's life support. In Japan, one of the simplest quiet power habits is starting the day with real light and clean air. Curtains open, window cracked, a quick step outside if you can. And no, it's not some cute aesthetic thing. Morning light is one of the strongest signals your brain uses to set your circadian clock, when to feel alert, when to get hungry, when to wind down later. If you get bright natural light early, you're basically telling your body, start the day now, do the chemistry. Even mainstream circadian research is clear that light has non-visual effects on sleep, mood, and rhythms. Light at the wrong time can disrupt things, and the right timing can help anchor them. And a bunch of modern sleep researchers and performance folks keep repeating the same practical target. Get outside for a few minutes in the morning. We're talking short and doable, not a 90-minute hike. Here's what changed my life when I started doing it the Japanese way. I stopped treating mornings like a war zone and started treating them like a system reboot. If you do nothing else, just do this. Before caffeine, before doom scrolling, put your eyes on daylight, not the sun, just daylight. Then take 10 slow breaths near an open window or outside. You're lowering the odds of that jittery, wired but tired morning, because your body actually gets the memo. I know that sounds small, but small is the whole point. Japan is basically the world capital of tiny habits that compound, and if you want the extra nerdy angle, better light timing supports better sleep timing later, and better sleep timing tends to reduce stress load. That's why this habit feels like it makes the rest of the day easier, because it literally sets the timing for your internal clockwork. 29. Radio Taiso, the 10-minute I'm awake now routine, that's secretly a national health hack. All right, let me hit you with something most people outside Japan still don't take seriously. Radio Taiso, those short, rhythmic calisthenics broadcast for decades. It looks almost too simple, which is why it works. This isn't influencer fitness. It's consistency fitness. The kind that keeps joints moving, keeps balance sharp, and keeps older adults functional. NHK broadcasts it daily, and it's done in parks, schools, workplaces, like a cultural reset button you can press in under 10 minutes. Now here's the part that should make you raise your eyebrows. There are reports of mass participation. The millions follow along reality, because the barrier to entry is basically zero. And beyond the vibe, you've got organizations studying outcomes in older adults and community settings, including research groups that specifically mention popular Taiso, including Radio Taiso, as tied to health promotion and prevention approaches. The habit that changed my life wasn't doing Japanese exercise. It was adopting the Japanese mindset. Movement is a daily hygiene practice, like brushing your teeth. When you treat movement like hygiene, you stop negotiating with yourself. And Radio Taiso is perfect because it's full body. Shoulder rolls, trunk turns, hip hinges, light jumps, just enough to warm tissues, wake up the nervous system, and make your posture stop collapsing like a folding chair. The sneaky benefit is how it changes your day. You don't start from zero anymore. Your first hour becomes smoother. You're less stiff at your desk. You're less likely to save your body for a workout that never happens. And if you're thinking, that's not intense enough, good. Because intensity isn't the point at 7:12 a.m. The point is showing up daily. 10 minutes a day is 70 minutes a week. Over a year, that's over 60 hours of movement you didn't have before. That's how Japan does it. Not heroic bursts, quiet accumulation. 28. Brewing tea like a ritual, not a beverage. Green tea, as a slow focus tool, not a caffeine grenade. Here's a Japanese habit that completely rewired my mornings. Making tea slowly, especially green tea, like it's a ritual, not a fuel stop. In the West, we treat caffeine like a fire extinguisher for sleep debt. Japan treats tea like a calm clarity practice. And there's a reason this matters right now. Tea culture in Japan has been changing. Loose-leaf at-home consumption has dropped over decades. One report cites 251 g per person in 2021, about half of approximately 30 years ago, while matcha is exploding globally and straining supply. So when you adopt this habit today, you're not copying a trend, you're tapping into something that's simultaneously traditional and being remixed by modern life. What I do is simple but powerful. I brew, I wait, I smell it, I drink it without scrolling. That 3-5-minute pause sounds laughably small until you realize most people never give their brain a clean start anymore. Tea gives you caffeine, yes, but it also forces a micro slowdown that lowers the panic tempo of your day. And if you want the most people don't know this detail, a lot of matcha and quality green tea production isn't just pick leaf, sell leaf. Matcha comes from tencha, needs shading, careful processing, and there are bottlenecks and labor issues. Exports of powdered green teas have surged, and producers are overwhelmed, especially with aging farmers and limited scaling capacity. That's why your tea ritual becomes more than wellness theater. It's a deliberate choice to use a low-chaos stimulant and a high-attention process. The life change for me was that tea became my focused doorway. It's the moment I decide what kind of day I'm having, rushed and reactive, or steady and intentional. And yes, coffee can be ritual too, but Japanese tea culture leans naturally towards softness, spacing, and restraint, which is exactly what most overstimulated people are missing. 27. Ichiju sansai, thinking. Build meals around structure, not cravings, even when you're busy. Okay, this one is sneaky because it looks like food content, but it's really a decision-making system. The Japanese habit of eating with structure, the classic idea of ichiju sansai, one soup, three sides, as a pattern. You don't need to turn your kitchen into Kyoto. The point is that Japanese daily eating often leans on repeating templates, small dishes, balanced elements, less chaos, and that template reduces overeating, reduces decision fatigue, and makes nutrition feel automatic. This pairs beautifully with another Okinawan-rooted principle you'll hear about, hara hachibu, stopping at about 80% full. The Blue Zones team literally highlights it as a practical strategy and frames it as a habit you can implement by slowing down and changing your environment. And yes, people argue online about how literal or universal it is, but the habit itself, leave a little space, is insanely effective for modern portion culture. Now here's what changed my life. I stopped eating, like every meal was a final boss fight. I started eating like I was building a calm, repeatable system. Something warm, soup or tea, something proteinish, something vegetable-ish, something fermented-ish, if possible. The big win is that you stop swinging between perfect diet and trash mode. You're building a meal identity that holds under stress, and the unknown to most angle. When you eat with structure and smaller components, you naturally slow down and give your satiety signals time to catch up. That's the hidden superpower behind the 80% idea. Satiety isn't instant, and speed is the enemy of accuracy. So if you want to do this today, keep miso or broth on hand, keep one quick protein option, keep a rotating veggie, and keep one little side like seaweed, pickles or fruit. That's a Japanese-style daily habit. Repeatable, not dramatic. It doesn't demand motivation. It demands a template. 26. Kaizen mornings. One tiny upgrade before the day upgrades you, in the worst way. Let me translate Kaizen into real life, not corporate poster language. Kaizen is choosing one micro-improvement before the world hands you 20 problems. And Japan is famous for this mindset. Small, continuous improvement. Because it's not motivational, it's mechanical. The habit that changed my life. Every morning, I pick one tiny thing to improve in my environment or workflow before I enter the day. Not a huge life overhaul, a 1% shift, because those are the only changes you can actually keep when you're tired, busy, and stressed. And here's what people don't realize. Kaizen isn't just productivity, it's anxiety management. When you do one controlled improvement, clear one surface, prep one tool, write the first 2 steps of a task, you send a signal to your brain. I'm not helpless. I can shape the day. That reduces the frantic feeling that the day is happening to you. This habit pairs with Japanese clean starts. You see culturally, organized spaces, respect for shared environments, the idea that the smallest actions matter. It's why workplaces that do even tiny routine resets can feel smoother, less friction, fewer micro delays, fewer where is that thing moments that silently eat your willpower. My rule is simple. Make tomorrow easier with something you can finish in under 5 minutes. Refill the water bottle, stage your bag, put your keys in the same place, pre-open the doc you'll work on, lay out the one ingredient that makes breakfast automatic. That's Kaizen. It's not sexy, but it's lethal in the long run, in a good way. And you'll notice something weird. Once you start stacking these, your day feels calmer, even when nothing else changes, because your environment stops fighting you. That's the Japanese magic. Not discipline, it's systems that reduce chaos. And the best part? You don't need perfect motivation to do a 5-minute improvement. You just need to start. Then tomorrow, you do another. That's how the habit changes your life. It compounds quietly until you look back and realize your baseline is higher. No hype required. 25. Inamuri energy. Strategic micro-rest without guilt. Because tired brains make expensive mistakes. This is where Japanese culture gets misunderstood and memed to death. Inamuri, the idea of being present while resting, like dozing on a train or taking a tiny rest in public without it being seen as moral failure. A lot of the internet makes it sound like Japan naps anywhere. And yes, the culture around public tiredness is different. But the real life-changing habit I borrowed is this: micro-rest before you crash. Not a 2-hour nap that ruins your night. A 10-20-minute reset that protects your attention and mood. Even mainstream discussions about inamuri, Point out the framing. It's not escaping work. It's often interpreted as evidence you've been working hard, and short rest can support cognition and emotional regulation. Now, don't take random bloggy hype as medical advice, but the principle is grounded in something you already know. When you're exhausted, your brain gets impulsive, your patience evaporates, and your decisions get sloppy. That's when people pick fights, overspend, snack mindlessly, and doom scroll for an hour. A tiny rest can prevent a whole chain reaction. The Japanese approach, at least the way I apply it, is to treat rest like a maintenance break, not a reward you must earn through suffering. If you want the practical method, set a timer for 12 minutes. Sit upright, head supported, eyes closed, no phone. You're not trying to hit deep sleep. You're trying to drop your stress state. You stand up after, and you feel like you got your brain back. And here's the most people don't know part. The guilt spiral is often more exhausting than the tiredness. Inamuri culturally reduces that guilt, because the expectation is human bodies have limits. You can be dedicated and still need rest. That perspective alone changes your day. It turns rest from failure into function. 24. Shinrin yoku breaks. A nature dose that works like pressure relief for your nervous system. And no, it's not woo-woo. This one is a heavyweight Japanese habit, and it fits throughout the day perfectly. Shinrin yoku, forest bathing, basically immersive nature time with your senses turned on. Japan's forest agency introduced forest bathing as a stress management concept decades ago, and researchers have been studying measurable effects for years. What surprised me when I dug into it is how often studies report physiological changes, not just "I felt nice." Reviews and research discussions point to shifts in stress markers and cardiovascular-related measures, and there's work showing blood pressure differences when people spend time in forest environments versus non-forest settings. Here's the habit that changed my life. I stopped using my breaks to consume more stimulation and started using breaks to decompress my nervous system. If you scroll on your lunch break, you're not resting, you're just feeding your brain more input. Shinrin yoku flips that. The task is to notice color, sound, scent, texture, 5 senses presence. And the best part is, you don't need a magical forest. If you're in a city, find trees, a park, even a quiet street with greenery. The habit is the method. Walk slower than normal. Breathe through your nose if you can, and keep your attention external, instead of trapped in your head. This is the opposite of modern stress behavior, where you live in your skull all day. The most people don't know detail is that Japan has actually treated this as a public health concept, not just a self-care trend, and the research conversation is ongoing, meaning it's not frozen folklore, it's still being evaluated and refined. When I added this midday, it didn't just make me calmer, it made me more productive after, because my brain wasn't overheating. And that's the real Japanese lesson. Don't wait until you're shattered to recover. Insert small recovery during the day, so your evening doesn't become a desperate repair session. 23. Keitai off, brain on. The Japanese habit of single-channel attention and why your day stops feeling fractured. Here's a habit I stole from Japanese daily life that felt almost illegal at first. Keeping the phone out of sight on purpose during focused blocks. Not "I'll try not to check it." I mean physically putting it away. Bag, drawer, another room. Because Japan has this cultural thread of doing the thing you're doing without constantly leaking attention everywhere. You see it in small moments. People reading quietly on trains, students drilling, craftsmen repeating motions with almost obsessive presence. And when I started copying that energy, I realized my problem wasn't lack of motivation, it was constant context switching. Your brain pays a tax every time you bounce from task to notification to task. And that tax adds up until you feel exhausted without doing anything meaningful. So I made it a ritual. I pick one task, set a timer, and my phone goes away like it's a contaminant. Then I do something very Japanese feeling. I define the done line before I start. 1 page edited, 1 outline drafted, 1 email batch cleared. That's the trick. You're not chasing infinite work. You're completing a defined unit with clean attention. And the weird result? Time slows down in a good way. 30 minutes suddenly has weight. You stop living in that frantic state where you're technically busy, but spiritually unemployed. Another thing I borrowed: I don't let messaging apps be ambient. In Japan, there's a strong etiquette around not making your noise. Everyone else's problem: quiet trains, quiet public spaces, low-volume life. I turned that into digital etiquette for myself. No buzzing, no banners, no preview text. If something is urgent, people can call. Otherwise, it's queued. And the payoff is massive. You regain mental continuity. You remember what you were thinking 5 minutes ago. You stop rereading the same paragraph 10 times, because your mind keeps resetting. This is how the habit changes your whole day. Mornings become productive instead of chaotic. Afternoons stop collapsing into brain fog, and evenings feel like yours again, because you didn't spend all day with your nervous system in incoming mode. Single-channel attention isn't just a productivity hack, it's sanity. 22. Otsukare-sama. Energy, closing loops and honoring effort, so stress doesn't follow you home. Let me give you a Japanese habit that sounds like a phrase but functions like therapy. Otsukare-sama desu. That everyday expression that basically means you worked hard or thanks for your effort. In Japan, it's used constantly at work, after meetings, when someone finishes a task, even as a greeting in certain contexts. But what changed my life wasn't just saying it. It was adopting the underlying habit, closing the psychological loop of work so your brain doesn't keep running tabs all night. Because most people end the day like this. Laptop shuts, but their mind stays open. Unfinished tasks, vague worries, a floating sense of, I forgot something. Japanese work culture has its own issues. Sure, but one thing it nails is ritualized transitions. So I created a small Otsukare-sama ritual for myself at 2 points. Midday and end of day. Midday, I do a 3-minute reset. I write what I finished, what I'm doing next, and what can wait. End of day, I do a slightly longer closeout. I list the top 3 wins, even small. I move unfinished tasks into a named place, tomorrow list, calendar block, project doc, and I literally say out loud, done for today. That sounds corny, until you realize your brain responds to closure. It stops treating everything as unresolved danger. And here's the bigger shift. In Japan, acknowledging effort is social glue. In my life, acknowledging effort became self-glue. Instead of finishing a day and immediately shaming myself for what I didn't do, I started marking completion. That reduces the stress chemistry that keeps you restless at night. It also changes how you show up tomorrow. You're not starting from guilt. You're starting from continuity. You can pair this with another Japanese-like principle. Don't end on a cliffhanger if you can help it. Before stopping a work session, I leave a starter crumb, a sentence, a bullet list, a next step, so tomorrow begins smoothly. That's how you stop procrastination. You make starting frictionless. Now the habit becomes automatic. Effort acknowledged, tasks contained, mind released. It's not be positive, it's operational. Otsukare-sama is basically the cultural permission slip to stop carrying the day like a backpack full of bricks. 21. Matanai. Spending, treating waste like a personal insult. And suddenly your whole day gets smarter. Instead of telling you some generic budget-better advice, let me show you a Japanese habit that rewired my decision-making. Matanai. That feeling of what a waste, not only with money, but with food, time, energy, resources. In Japan, matanai isn't just a word, it's a lens. And when you put that lens on your day, you start spotting invisible leaks everywhere. I used to waste minutes like they were disposable napkins. Open an app, scroll, lose 12 minutes. Feel annoyed, repeat. Matanai flipped that. Now I treat time waste like spilling water in a desert, not because I'm obsessed with productivity, but because I respect my life more. So here's what I do. I run a waste audit once a day, usually late afternoon when energy dips. I ask, what's the biggest leak right now? Is it decision fatigue? Is it snacking because I'm tired? Is it switching tasks? Then I fix one leak immediately. Japanese-style fixes are small and practical. Pre-portioned snacks, so you don't eat like a raccoon. Batch errands, so you don't burn fuel and attention. Keep a default meal, so you don't spiral into takeout decisions. And matanai hits food waste hard too. I started cooking with a Japanese approach. Use everything. Repurpose scraps. Plan leftovers intentionally. That's not about being cheap, though it saves money. It's about respecting materials. A leftover bowl of rice becomes fried rice, onigiri, or soup thickener. Extra vegetables become quick pickles. Even the habit of having a small use-first zone in the fridge is extremely Japanese in spirit. Eat what will expire soon. Don't let it rot behind new purchases. But the biggest life change? Matanai made me stop wasting attention. Matanai made me stop wasting attention. I stopped spending my best hours on low-value tasks. If something doesn't matter, it gets simplified, automated, or removed. That's a Japanese habit in the deepest sense. Reduce waste. Reduce friction. Increase respect. And when you live that way throughout the day, you end up with more money, more calm, more time, and way less regret. Because waste isn't just trash, it's stolen life. 20. The lunch reset. Japanese style, hara-centered eating, so the afternoon doesn't crash and burn. Midday is where most people lose the plot. They eat fast, eat huge, eat stressed, then wonder why their brain turns to oatmeal at 2:37 p.m. A Japanese habit that changed my whole day is treating lunch as a reset, not a reward. Think of it like this. You're not just feeding hunger, you're stabilizing your afternoon nervous system. In Japanese daily life, there's often a quieter relationship with lunch. Balanced portions, less theatrical eating, fewer sugar spikes, more routine. So I adopted a Japanese lunch protocol. First, I start with something warm if possible. Soup, broth, tea, because warmth slows me down and signals safety to the body. Second, I build lunch around steadiness, protein plus fiber, plus something fermented or mineral-rich if available. Not because I'm chasing perfection, but because stable energy is worth more than a fun lunch that detonates my focus later. Third, and this is the habit most people don't do, I eat with a deliberate pace. Japan has a whole culture of appreciating food with attention. Not necessarily fancy, just present. So I do a tiny ritual. I put the food down between bites for the first 5 minutes. That alone reduces overeating, because your satiety signals can actually catch up. Now here's the big kicker. I stopped treating lunch as the only time I can escape, because that makes you inhale it while scrolling. Instead, I separate lunch and rest. I eat, then I take a 5-10 minute walk, or a quiet sit. That mirrors Japanese rhythm. Meals, then a little digestion-friendly movement or calm. It's not dramatic. It's civilized, and it keeps the afternoon from collapsing. If you want throughout the day impact, this is huge. Lunch determines your afternoon tone. A heavy, chaotic lunch gives you heavy, chaotic thoughts. A steady lunch gives you steady cognition. I also borrow bento logic, portion control through compartments. When you pack or plate food in smaller sections, you naturally diversify nutrients and reduce the urge to overdo one thing. You're less likely to eat a mountain of carbs because there's a visual structure. That's why bento is genius. It turns meals into systems. And once lunch becomes a reset instead of a crash, you stop needing a second coffee just to feel human. Your whole day gets smoother. 19 Evening of Euro mode. Bathing as nervous system engineering, not hygiene, and why it changes sleep, mood, and your next morning. When people outside Japan think of Japanese baths, they imagine luxury. The real truth? For many households, bathing is maintenance, a daily switch that tells your body, we're transitioning. And once I adopted this habit, my evenings stopped feeling like a chaotic tumble into bedtime. I'm talking about a furo mode. Warm bath or hot shower done intentionally, not rushed. In Japan, bathing culture is structured: clean first, soak after, relax deeply. You don't have to copy the full tradition to steal the benefit. The life-changing part is what it does to your nervous system. Warmth relaxes muscles, reduces that clenched fight mode you carry all day, and creates a clear boundary between work brain and rest brain. I started treating bathing like a decompression chamber. No phone, low light, slow breathing, and then I added something that feels very Japanese. I prepare tomorrow immediately after, while calm lay out clothes, set tea, tidy one surface. The bath makes me feel human again, and then I use that calm to do tiny preparation. That's a powerful loop. Relax, reset, prepare, sleep, instead of the Western loop. Scroll, snack, stress, collapse, another Japanese feeling detail. I started warming the room a bit, or using a robe, because going from hot water into a freezing room makes you tense again. The goal is sustained relaxation. You can also pair this with a small, quiet house habit. Lower voices, fewer bright lights, no loud chaos, because Japanese evenings often have a softer acoustic vibe. And here's the overlooked magic. When you make evenings calmer, mornings become easier without forcing it. You wake up less jagged. You don't need your first hour to recover from last night. That's why this habit changes your life throughout the day. It doesn't just help sleep, it upgrades tomorrow's baseline. A foro mode is like pressing the reset button on your entire system. Every single night. And when you do that consistently, your mood stabilizes, your patience improves, your cravings calm down, and you stop living in that constant low-grade exhaustion that makes everything harder than it needs to be. 18. Nightly, 5-minute reset. Katazuke. The Japanese habit that makes tomorrow feel 30% easier before it even starts. Instead of trying to get organized in one big heroic cleaning spree, I copied a very Japanese approach: reset the space a little bit every night, just enough to return things to neutral. In Japan, tidiness isn't only about aesthetics, it's about function, flow, and respect for your future self. And the life-changing trick is the timing. You do it when the day is basically over, when the stakes are low, and when you're not negotiating with 10 different priorities. My rule is simple: 5 minutes, no more, timer on, no perfection allowed. I put dishes where they belong, clear the main surface, reset the entryway, keys, bag, jacket, and take out any obvious trash. That's it. But here's what most people don't realize. This habit doesn't save you 5 minutes. It saves you decision fatigue. Tomorrow morning, you don't walk into visual noise. You don't start the day already annoyed. You don't waste mental bandwidth searching for stuff. That's the Japanese genius. Reduce friction in the environment, and your brain becomes calmer without trying. I also adopted a one-zone focus rule. I don't clean the whole house. I reset only the zones that control my day. Kitchen, desk, entrance. In Japanese homes, the gunkan entry area is a huge deal because it's the transition point. So I treat my entrance like a control panel. Shoes aligned, clutter gone, essentials staged. And here's the exaggeration that's still true. When your space is chaotic, your brain behaves like it's under threat. That's why you reach for snacks, scroll, procrastinate, and feel irritated for no reason. The 5-minute reset removes that invisible stress tax. Another thing I stole is the Japanese appreciation for putting things back as a default behavior, not an extra chore. When you build that muscle, the mess doesn't accumulate into a weekend crisis. It stays small, manageable, almost boring, and boring is power. After a month of doing this, I noticed something wild. My mornings felt longer, not because time changed, because friction disappeared. I had more patience, more clarity, and fewer micro-annoyances that normally start a domino chain of bad decisions. So if you want a Japanese habit that improves your entire day without needing motivation, reset the space for 5 minutes every night. You're not cleaning, you're engineering tomorrow. 17. Junbi prep culture. Staging your day like a professional. Because Japan doesn't leave basics to chance. If there's one thing Japanese daily life teaches you, it's this: preparedness is a form of kindness, to yourself and to other people. There's a cultural idea of junbi, preparation, that shows up everywhere. School supplies ready, uniforms set, work tools organized, trains running on schedule. I adopted a micro version of that, and it changed everything. I stage tomorrow the night before, but only the essentials, not some Pinterest fantasy. Just the handful of items that make your morning smooth. I choose 3 categories: clothing, food, and go-time items. Clothes, laid out, including socks. Yes, socks. Because nothing is more insulting than being late because you're hunting for a sock, like it's a rare artifact. Food. I pre-decide breakfast and the first drink, water or tea, so I don't start the day with a decision spiral. Go-time items: keys, wallet, headphones, charger, notebook. Whatever you always forget goes into one spot. This is Japanese thinking. The system should not rely on your mood. It should run even when you're tired. Now here's the part people miss. Prep isn't about being intense. Prep is about protecting your attention. Your morning attention is expensive, It's your cleanest mental fuel. If you waste it on tiny chaos, where's my charger? What am I wearing? What am I eating? You show up to your real work already half drained. Junbi fixes that. I also borrowed a Japanese sequence mindset. I don't just place things, I place them in the order I use them. Shoes near the door, bag near the door, coat ready. If I'm filming or working, my first tool is set out. It's like a factory line, but for life, and the exaggerated but true benefit is that this creates emotional stability. You feel more in control, you feel less rushed, you feel more capable, because you're not constantly reacting. Even on bad days, the system holds you up like a handrail. Another most people don't know layer. Preparation reduces friction with other humans. When you're not scrambling, you're not snapping, you're not making other people wait. You're not forgetting appointments or showing up frazzled. In Japan, that matters culturally. Your chaos shouldn't spill onto others. So this habit made me nicer too. And once you experience a few mornings where everything just works, you realize why Japan leans so hard into preparation. It's not rigid, it's freedom from panic. 16. Shisa kanko. Pointing and calling. Yes, seriously. The Japanese railway safety habit that prevents stupid mistakes. Okay, this one sounds ridiculous until you try it, and then you feel like you unlocked cheat codes. Japan's rail and industrial environments are famous for using pointing and calling shisa kanko. Workers literally point at signals and call out confirmations to reduce errors. It's not theater, it's error prevention, and I stole it for daily life in a way that feels almost unfair. Here's how it works. When I do something important, lock the door, turn off the stove, send a crucial file, I physically point and say it out loud. Door locked, stove off, file uploaded. Why does this change your life? Because your brain is a liar when you're distracted. You think you locked it, but you were also thinking about 12 other things, so the memory doesn't encode properly. Then you spend the next hour with anxiety. Did I lock it? Did I turn that off? Shisa kanko forces your attention to fully land for 1 second, and that 1 second prevents a cascade of stress later. I started with just one area, the kitchen. I point at the stove knob and say off. I point at the sink and say water off. Then I expanded to tech. Before closing my laptop, I point at the saving icon or the file location and say saved. That sounds goofy, but it works because it converts vague intention into a clear, memorable event. And here's the most people don't know part. The method is designed to reduce human error under repetitive conditions, exactly what modern life is. You do the same actions daily while distracted. That's when mistakes happen. I also use it for routines. When I take supplements or meds, I point and say taken. Because if you've ever doubled a dose by accident, you know why this matters. In a work setting, I use a softer version. Before I hit send on a critical message, I point at the recipient field and read the name out loud. This habit saved me from sending sensitive stuff to the wrong person more than once. It's like having a second brain without buying a gadget. The exaggeration is accurate. This can eliminate a whole category of small disasters that drain your day. Lost keys, unlocked doors, forgotten tasks, resend chaos, rework. And once those disappear, your life feels cleaner, calmer, and strangely more professional. Japan figured out that humans aren't lazy, they're distractible. Point and call is a low-tech way to beat distraction. 15. Kuchi sabishi. Awareness, the Japanese habit that stops mindless snacking before it hijacks your whole day. Let's talk about the snack monster. Because a lot of people aren't hungry, they're just restless. In Japan, there's a concept people mention casually. Kuchi sabishi. My mouth is lonely. It's that feeling where you want to chew something. Not because your body needs fuel, but because your brain wants stimulation or comfort. When I learned this, it was like someone finally labeled the thing that was running my afternoons. And the habit that changed my life was simple. I started naming the craving before feeding it. If I want a snack at 3 p.m., I ask, is this hunger or mouth lonely? If it's mouth lonely, I don't shame myself. I redirect. This is where Japanese habit design is brilliant. You replace, not resist. So I built Japanese-style substitutes that satisfy the urge without detonating my energy. Hot tea, sparkling water, a piece of fruit, a small portion of nuts, a few bites of something crunchy that isn't sugar. And the biggest upgrade, I keep snacks in small intentional servings, like a mini version of bento logic. You don't eat from the bag, you plate it. The moment you plate it, your brain understands boundaries. Another thing I borrowed from Japanese daily eating is the idea of structured pauses. If I'm mouth lonely, I'll do 2 minutes of something physical, stretch, quick walk, a few squats, because a lot of snack cravings are actually nervous energy. After 2 minutes, the urge often evaporates. And here's the most people don't know power move. I also changed my environment. In Japan, convenience exists everywhere, but so does routine. I stopped storing snack foods at eye level. I put good defaults where my hand naturally goes first. Tea, water, quick protein. This isn't willpower, it's architecture. When you stop letting mouth loneliness drive your choices, your whole day stabilizes. Fewer sugar spikes, fewer crashes, fewer guilty spirals, and you start realizing something slightly scary. A lot of your hunger was actually stress management. Kuchi sabishi gives you a language for it, and once you can name it, you can control it. That's what made it life-changing for me. Not dieting, awareness plus a better default. 14. Yutori pacing. Building deliberate slack into your schedule, so life stops feeling like a permanent emergency. Most people live like they're being chased. Even when nothing is happening, they're rushing because their schedule has no breathing room. A Japanese habit that changed my life is adopting yutori energy, intentional spaciousness, not laziness, not do less forever. It's the idea that you leave margin so you can handle reality without snapping. In Japan, yutori shows up in subtle ways. Orderly processes, predictable routines, respect for timing, fewer loud, chaotic transitions. So I copied it in a practical way. I started scheduling micro gaps between tasks. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, enough to walk, hydrate, reset, or simply not sprint from one thing to the next like a cartoon character. And the impact is insane, because micro gaps prevent the day from cascading. Without gaps, one delay ruins everything. With gaps, delays get absorbed. That's yutori. Shock absorbers for life. I also adopted a rule that feels extremely Japanese in spirit. I arrive a little early when it matters, and I stop romanticizing being late. That one shift reduces so much stress, you can feel it in your shoulders. Another part of yutori is how you talk to yourself. Instead of I'm behind, I use I'm in sequence. That matters because panic destroys performance. When you're panicked, you make sloppy decisions. you multitask badly, and you create more problems. So yutori isn't just time, it's mental posture. I also built yutori into evenings. I don't schedule my night down to the minute. I leave a soft hour where nothing is required. That prevents the common modern trap where you finish your last obligation and then immediately doom scroll because your brain is fried. The most people don't know benefit is that yutori makes you more consistent. People think pressure creates productivity, but constant pressure creates burnout and avoidance. Spaciousness creates repeatability, and Japan, at its best, is the master of repeatability. Small daily actions, done calmly, reliably, over time. When I added yutori, my day stopped feeling like a series of emergencies and started feeling like a controlled flow. I still worked hard, but I wasn't bleeding all day. That's the point. Yutori isn't a luxury. It's how you stay human while doing a lot. 13. Gaman, without the self-destruction. The Japanese habit of enduring discomfort strategically, not emotionally. Most people hear gaman and think it means suffering quietly forever. That's not what I'm talking about. The life-changing habit I stole is the useful version. Endure small discomforts on purpose so your life stops being controlled by impulses. In Japan, gaman is tied to patience, restraint, not making your emotions everyone else's problem, but if you apply it intelligently, it becomes a superpower for modern life. Here's what it looks like throughout the day. You feel the itch to check your phone. Wait 60 seconds. You feel the urge to snack, drink water first, and sit with it for 2 minutes. You feel annoyed. Pause before you answer. These aren't moral tests. They're micro-reps for self-control. And self-control is basically the currency of a stable day. When I started practicing this, my entire routine stopped getting hijacked by cravings, distractions, and mood swings. And here's the part most people don't know. The reason it works is because you're training your brain to tolerate, not immediately, without feeling threatened. Modern life teaches the opposite. Instant everything. Gaman rewires that. But I want to be crystal clear. This is not ignore your needs. It's separate real needs from emotional urgency. If you're dehydrated, drink. If you're truly hungry, eat. But if you're spiraling because your brain wants stimulation, Gaman says, hold steady for a moment, and the benefit is ridiculous. You become less reactive. You waste less money. You say fewer things you regret. You stop needing constant comfort to function. I also use gaman socially. If someone is irritating, I don't immediately correct them or fight for dominance. I wait, that one pause, avoid so many unnecessary conflicts. This habit makes you look calm and in control. But the secret is, you're not calm, you're trained. And the best part? It's invisible. Nobody sees you. Win those micro battles, but your future self feels the results all day. Gaman, used properly, is basically discipline without drama. The ability to sit in mild discomfort long enough to choose better. 12 Kensho. Walking, the Japanese-style errand walk that quietly upgrades fitness, mood, and digestion. You don't need a gym obsession to be healthier. You need a daily movement pattern that doesn't require negotiation. A Japanese habit that changed my day is treating walking as a default transport and reset tool, not exercise I might do later. In Japan, walking is baked into life. Stations, stairs, neighborhoods, errands. Even when you're not in a huge city, the mindset is the point. Move as part of living. I started doing Japanese errand walking on purpose. If it's under 15-20 minutes, I walk. If I need a midday break, I walk. If I'm stuck mentally, I walk. And I don't walk like I'm dragging a dead body. I walk with posture, steady pace, and intention. That's the secret. You're not just burning calories. You're clearing mental static. Now here's the sneaky benefit. A short walk after meals is like a cheat code for how your afternoon feels. You digest better, you feel less heavy, and your energy doesn't crash as hard because you're not just sitting there like a statue after eating. Another most people don't know layer is how walking fixes your mood without you trying to fix your mood. You're changing your state. Breathing, blood flow, sunlight exposure if you're outside, the rhythm of steps. Japanese daily life is full of these rhythmic resets. Small movements that keep you from stagnating. I also copy a habit from Japanese commuting. Walk segments, not all or nothing. Even if I drive somewhere, I park farther and build a walk segment into the trip. That turns an otherwise sedentary day into a day with movement stitched throughout. And the compounding effect is wild. You stop feeling like health is a separate project. It becomes your baseline. You're not chasing a perfect workout. You're building a body that stays awake and functional all day. That's what walking does when you treat it like Japan treats it. Not a hobby, an infrastructure. 11. Busai mindset. Tiny daily preparedness habits. So emergencies don't instantly become chaos. This is a Japanese habit most people outside Japan barely understand. Busai disaster preparedness. As a normal part of life, Japan deals with earthquakes, typhoons, flooding, and it shows in how people think. Preparedness isn't paranoia, it's civic responsibility and personal stability. I took that mindset and turned it into micro habits throughout my day that quietly made my life smoother, even when there's no disaster. Example: I keep a small daily carry kit. Nothing tactical, nothing weird, just the practical basics. Backup battery, small flashlight, Band-Aids, a little cash, water. I rotate it like I rotate groceries. Another habit, I don't let my phone drop below a certain battery level when I'm out. That's Bosai thinking. Prevent small problems from becoming big problems. I also do the Japanese check and stage approach. Keys always in the same place. Shoes ready, important docs accessible. In Japan, drills and routines exist for a reason. Panic kills time. Routines save time. And the life-changing twist is that Bosai improves your everyday life. You stop losing stuff. You stop getting stranded. You stop feeling fragile. Your car always has enough fuel. Your home has basic supplies. Your first aid isn't a mystery box. This creates a background sense of safety. And when you feel safe, your brain makes better decisions. That's the part nobody talks about. Preparedness reduces stress, noise. And if something does happen, power outage, bad weather, lost wallet, you're not improvising like a desperate raccoon. You're executing a simple plan. That's Japan's Busai gift. Calm competence. You don't need to become extreme. You just need small daily habits that keep your life from collapsing when reality gets rude. 10. Onsen logic. At home, alternating warm, cool, and breath to regulate stress like a pro. You know what Japan understands, that modern stressed-out people don't? Your nervous system needs active regulation, not just entertainment. Onsen culture isn't only relaxation, it's regulation. Heat, calm, slow breathing, Sometimes a cool rinse, then rest. I started applying onsen logic at home in a simple way. Warm shower or bath, then a brief cool finish on the legs, arms, then slow breathing for 2 minutes. Not extreme cold plunges, not macho suffering, just enough contrast to wake the body, reduce that heavy stress feeling, and signal recovery. The reason this changes your day is that stress isn't just mental, it's physiological. You can't think your way out of a body stuck in fight mode. You have to change the body state. Warmth relaxes. Breath slows the system. A touch of cool brings clarity and reduces that sluggish feeling. In Japan, the whole onsen experience is built around quiet transitions. No rush, no loud chaos. So I also copied the atmosphere. Lower lights, no phone, minimal stimulation. The habit becomes a nightly nervous system tune-up. And here's the unexpected effect. It improves your patience the next day. You wake up less irritated. Your body feels less tense. You're less reactive. And because you're calmer, you make better choices. Food, work, conversations. That's why onsen logic isn't just a spa thing. It's a daily habit that can change your entire emotional baseline. 9. Shinrin yoku at night. A Japanese evening walk that upgrades sleep quality without trying. People think sleep problems are solved in bed. Japan would quietly disagree. A big part of sleep quality is how you exit the day. One of the most life-changing Japanese habits I adopted is taking a short evening walk, especially near trees or quieter streets, like a mini shinrin yoku, not to hit steps, to downshift. You're telling your body the hunt is over. The work is done. The lights are softer now, and I keep it intentionally low stimulation. No podcasts, no phone calls, no hype music, just walking and noticing. In Japan, there's a cultural comfort with quiet public walking, people moving calmly, not turning everything into a performance. That quiet rhythm is powerful. It unloads your brain. It lets your thoughts complete themselves instead of looping. And if you pair it with low light afterward, warm lamps, minimal screens, you create a strong sleep runway. This habit changed my evenings because it broke the modern trap. Finish work, sit down, scroll, brain stays active, sleep gets wrecked. The walk interrupts that. It lowers agitation. It makes you feel physically satisfied in a gentle way. It also reduces late-night cravings because you're not seeking dopamine from your phone as hard. And the best part, you don't need perfect discipline. You just need shoes and 10 minutes. That's Japanese habit design again. Small, repeatable, low friction. Once you do it consistently, you start noticing that you fall asleep faster, not because you forced it, but because you stopped carrying the day into your pillow. 8. Before bed yomikakase for adults. Swapping dopamine scroll for quiet reading, so your brain stops buzzing like a neon sign. If you want one Japanese-style habit that feels almost unfair in how quickly it changes your nights, it's this. Replace the last 20 minutes of screen time with paper, or at least a non-glowing e-reader, and read something intentionally calm. Japan has a deep culture of reading in tiny pockets of time, commutes, cafes, quiet evenings, and the secret isn't being smart. The secret is that reading is a single-track activity. It doesn't yank your emotions around like algorithm content does. So I built a nightly ritual that feels like a grown-up version of story time. Low light, tea or water, and a book that doesn't spike adrenaline. Not because I'm trying to be fancy, because I'm trying to protect sleep. Here's what changed my life. I stopped going to bed with my brain in incoming mode. Doom scrolling is basically your nervous system eating a bag of spicy chips at midnight. Fun for 2 minutes. Then you're sweating and wondering why you can't rest. Reading flips that. It creates a gentle tunnel out of the day. And I'm not talking about reading finance drama or true crime. I'm talking about reading that lowers mental temperature. Essays, gentle history, nature writing, even a calm novel. The Japanese lesson here is subtle. The end of the day is not for stimulation, it's for closure. I also adopted a rule that feels very Japan-coded. I don't read in 10 different tabs. I read one thing, slowly, like it deserves respect. That shift alone fixed my attention span over time. And the most people don't know advantage is how reading changes your internal voice. When you scroll, your internal voice becomes fragmented. Half thoughts, outrage bursts, comparison spirals. When you read, your internal voice becomes coherent again. It's like your mind remembers how to walk in a straight line. Another practical trick. I keep the book physically where my phone used to be. That's not willpower, that's environmental design. If your phone is within arm's reach, you'll touch it. So I charge the phone away from the bed, and I keep the book right there like a substitute behavior waiting to happen. After a couple weeks, you stop craving the scroll because your brain starts associating bedtime with calm. And when bedtime gets calm, mornings get better too. You wake up less irritated, less foggy, less why do I feel awful. That's why this habit changes your whole day, because it upgrades the night, and the night upgrades tomorrow. 7. The Japanese soundscape habit. Quiet the house on purpose so your body believes it's safe. Let me tell you something that's going to sound oddly specific. Japan taught me that sound is stress, even when you think you're used to it. A lot of people try to sleep while their environment is still loud. TV blaring, videos auto-playing, random notifications pinging, kitchen clatter, conversations at full volume. In many Japanese homes and neighborhoods, evenings tend to get quieter in a way you can feel in your bones. It's not that nobody ever laughs or lives, it's that the default is low noise, low friction, especially later. So I stole that habit and turned it into quiet hours in my own life. About an hour before bed, I intentionally lower the entire soundscape, TV off, or volume way down, no loud music, no aggressive content, no just one more video that spikes my brain. And here's the life-changing part. Your nervous system interprets quiet as safety. When the environment calms, your body starts to downshift automatically. You don't have to force relaxation. You just remove the inputs that keep you alert. I also started using soft, predictable sounds. Instead of chaotic sounds, like a fan, gentle ambient noise, or simply silence, because predictability is soothing. Random audio is not. And this is where the Japanese habit becomes a superpower. It's not only what you do, it's what you stop doing. I stopped letting my home sound like a casino at night. Then I noticed something weird. My thoughts got quieter too, because your brain mirrors your environment. If your environment is constant chatter, your mind becomes constant chatter. If your environment becomes calm, your mind finally gets permission to stop performing. Another under-the-radar trick I copied from Japan is the idea of not exporting your noise. In public, Japan's etiquette is often about not imposing on others. Quiet trains, minimal phone calls, softer presence. I turned that inward. Don't impose chaos on your future self. Don't leave loud videos running while you brush your teeth. Don't end the day with audio that makes your heart race. And if you live with others, this habit becomes even more powerful because it lowers the household temperature. People argue less in quiet hours. They get less snappy. The whole vibe becomes softer. So if you want a habit that feels almost too simple, pick a time, say 9 p.m., and make your home a quieter place on purpose. Your sleep improves, your mood improves, your morning improves, and you'll be shocked how much stress you were tolerating just because you didn't notice it. 6. Soto uchi switch. Changing clothes at home like a mental reset button. Yes, it's that serious. All right, this one is peak. Japan makes daily life smoother. The habit of changing into home clothes and treating it like a hard boundary between outside mode and inside mode. In Japan, it's common to separate soto, outside, and uchi, inside, in a very practical way. You take off shoes at the genkan. You don't drag the outside dirt through the house. And you often switch into something comfortable. And I thought, okay, cute. Then I tried it consistently and realized it's not cute. It's psychological engineering. Because when you keep wearing your outside clothes all night, you keep carrying outside energy all night. Errands, stress, work identity, public performance. Changing clothes becomes a ritual that tells your brain, we're home now. Different rules. So I built a simple system. I have a dedicated set of home clothes that are comfortable but not sloppy. Something that makes me feel relaxed and functional. The second I come home, I switch, and the effect is instant. Shoulders drop, breathing slows, your mind stops scanning for the next task. This habit changed my evenings because it prevented the half-working, half-resting state that ruins recovery. If you stay in outside mode, you never fully rest. You sort of hover in readiness. Home clothes break that. And here's the most people don't know part. It also reduces procrastination. Because once you change, you're more likely to do small home routines, put things away, prep for tomorrow, make tea, without feeling like you're still in public. It's like your body finally agrees to live in your house. I also pair it with a quick hand wash or face rinse. Another Japanese feeling reset, because water is a physical transition marker. Outside grime off, inside calm on. And the bigger impact shows up the next day. Your sleep improves because your mind isn't still wearing the day. You wake up with a cleaner emotional slate. Another practical bonus. If you keep outside clothes separate, your bed stays cleaner, your couch stays cleaner, your whole home feels less chaotic. So yes, I'm telling you that changing clothes can change your life, and I'm not joking. It's one of those tiny Japanese habits that looks trivial until you realize it's a boundary, and boundaries are what stop your day from bleeding into your night. 5. Kakeibo light. The Japanese habit of tracking money with intention so your spending stops being emotional. Here's the truth. Most people don't have a budgeting problem. They have a clarity problem. They spend, they feel guilty, they avoid looking, then they repeat. Japan has a tradition of household finance journaling called kakeibo, and you don't need to do it perfectly to steal the magic. The habit that changed my life is what I call kakeibo light. Once per day, usually late afternoon or evening, I write down 3 things: what I spent, why I spent it, and whether it moved me closer to the life I want. Not in an app that turns it into charts and noise. On paper. Simple. And the why is the key, because it exposes the emotional spending triggers. Convenience spending, stress spending, boredom spending, I deserve it spending. In Japan, the philosophy behind kakebo is often about mindful spending, aligning money with values instead of impulses. When I adopted that, my whole day got smarter because money decisions stopped being automatic. I'd be in a store, and I'd literally hear the question, "Why am I buying this?" That sounds annoying, until you realize it saves you from hundreds of small leaks. Another Japanese-style element. I categorize spending by feeling, not just by category. Example, was that coffee hunger? Or mood regulation? Was that delivery time saving? Or avoidance? When you track the feeling, you can fix the cause. Maybe you need a better lunch routine. Maybe you need a 5-minute break instead of a purchase. This habit also made me calmer, because uncertainty is stressful. When you don't know where your money goes, you feel fragile. When you see it clearly, you feel control, and control reduces stress. I also do one tiny Japanese-inspired rule. I choose one no-spend pocket of the day, like the hours between 2 p.m. and dinner, where I don't buy anything online. No random carts, no just browsing. That's where people get wrecked. So I protect that pocket. The result is not deprivation, it's freedom from impulse. And the best part? Kakebo Light improves your planning for tomorrow. You realize what you actually use, what you waste, what you can prep at home, what you can buy in bulk, what you can drop entirely. Your day becomes less reactive because you're not constantly fixing discomfort with spending. That's the Japanese habit: awareness, restraint, and small daily adjustments that compound. 4. Ichinichi ichitsen. One deliberate good deed daily, because Japan understands social friction, is a stress tax. Let's end this chunk with a habit that isn't about productivity, food, or sleep, but somehow upgrades all of them. The Japanese-style practice of small daily consideration. Call it courtesy, call it harmony, call it don't make your mood other people's problem. In Japan, everyday life is packed with micro-behaviors that reduce social friction. Orderly movement, not blocking pathways, keeping noise down, being mindful in shared spaces. And when I adopted a version of that, my days got noticeably lighter. The habit is what I call ichinichi ichiten. One intentional good deed per day, small enough that you can't talk yourself out of it. Not performative, not look at me, just a deliberate act that reduces someone else's burden. Sending a clear message instead of a confusing one, returning something to its place, letting someone merge in traffic, cleaning up after yourself in a shared space, leaving a kind comment that's specific, not generic. Here's why it changes your life. Social friction is exhausting. Even tiny conflicts, passive aggression, misunderstandings, messy handoffs burn energy and follow you around. When you practice daily consideration, you create fewer messes, fewer misunderstandings, fewer grudges. You also become the kind of person people trust, which makes life smoother in ways you can't always measure. Another most people don't know benefit is internal. Doing one good deed daily stabilizes your identity. You start thinking, I'm the type of person who contributes. That shifts your mood baseline. It reduces cynicism, and cynicism is heavy. I also apply this habit to communication, which is a huge Japanese life skill. Clarity is kindness. If I ask for something, I ask cleanly. If I decline politely. If I'm late, I inform early. These are tiny things, but they prevent emotional chaos. It's all connected. So yes, one small daily considerate act can change your whole day because it changes your social environment and your internal environment at the same time. It's not about being nice. It's about living with less friction. And Japan, at its best, is basically a masterclass in friction reduction. 3. Ma as a daily weapon, building intentional pauses so you stop living like a glitchy machine. Alright, number 3 is the habit that quietly sits underneath almost everything beautiful in Japan. Ma, the intentional space between things. Most people think Japan's Zen vibe is about incense and temples. No, a huge part of it is pause discipline, space in conversation, space in movement, space in design, space in the day. And when I started practicing Ma's on purpose, my life stopped feeling like a non-stop conveyor belt. Here's how it shows up throughout the day. Before you answer a message, you pause for 2 breaths. Before you eat, you pause for 10 seconds. Before you start work, you pause and define what done looks like. Before you walk into your house, you pause at the entry and let the outside day drop off your shoulders. These tiny gaps don't waste time. They prevent mistakes. They stop you from replying emotionally. They stop you from overeating automatically. They stop you from launching into work confused. And the wild thing is, when you add Ma, you don't just feel calmer, you become more accurate. That's what people miss. Most of your daily stress comes from sloppy transitions. You jump from task to task with no reset. So your brain is carrying leftovers from the last thing. Then you wonder why you're irritated while answering an email, or why you can't focus, or why you keep reaching for snacks like you're trying to silence your own mind. Ma fixes transitions. It gives your nervous system a fraction of a second to reorient. I also use Ma socially. This is huge. In a lot of Western conversation, people talk like they're fighting for oxygen. Japan often allows silence without panic, so I practiced letting silence exist. And that one shift made me sound more confident and less reactive, because I wasn't rushing to fill space with noise. Even in conflict, May is a cheat code. Pause, breathe, respond cleanly. Most arguments are fueled by speed. Slow it down, and the heat drops. Practically, I built Ma moments into my schedule. 2-minute buffer between meetings, 10-minute buffer after lunch, 5-minute buffer before bed. It's not laziness, it's shock absorption. Life is unpredictable. A schedule with 0 space is a schedule designed to fail. Mom gives you a little room to be human, room to spill without flooding, room to adjust without snapping. And once you feel the difference, you realize this is one of Japan's most underrated life habits. Space is not emptiness. Space is control. 2. Shokunin mindset. In everyday tasks, do small things with craft, and your self-respect skyrockets. Number 2 is the habit that made me stop half-doing my life, adopting a shokunin mindset, the craftsman spirit into ordinary routines. Shokunin is that Japanese concept where the work itself is treated with care, pride, and responsibility, even if it's small. People often associate it with sushi masters or carpenters, but the habit that changed my life was applying it to normal stuff: making breakfast, cleaning a pan, writing an email, folding clothes, organizing a workspace, even pouring tea. And here's the reason it works. When you do things sloppily, your brain registers it. It's like a tiny vote for "I don't care." Then those tiny votes stack up, and you feel low-grade dissatisfaction, even if you can't explain why. Shokunin flips that into tiny votes for competence. It's not perfectionism, it's attention. I started doing 1 task per day, as if I was a quiet professional, not for Instagram. For me, example, I cut vegetables more carefully, not faster. I cleaned the knife immediately. I wiped the counter properly. I put things back with intention. Then I noticed something creepy. My mood got better. Because self-respect is built from evidence. Your brain needs proof that you're capable, and shokunin provides that proof in microdoses all day long. I also applied it to communication. This is huge. A shokunin email is short, clear, respectful, and complete. It doesn't dump confusion on the other person. You give context. You state the ask. You include the next step. That habit alone reduces back and forth, reduces misunderstandings, reduces stress, and it makes you look sharp without trying. Another way I use it, I choose a signature standard for one daily thing. Maybe it's how I make my bed. Maybe it's how I prep my tea. Maybe it's how I set up my workspace. Japanese life often has these standards that make daily living smoother. Like a little personal code. The surprising benefit is that shokunin reduces anxiety. When you handle small tasks with care, you feel less chaotic. You stop treating your life like a pile of loose papers blowing in the wind. You're building a system with dignity, and that energy spreads. You start eating better because you respect your body. You sleep better because you respect tomorrow. You spend less because you respect your future. That's why this habit belongs at number 2. It's not a single action. It's a way of doing everything, quietly, consistently, and with pride. One-dai wa discipline. Protect harmony, reduce friction, and your whole life runs smoother than you thought possible. This is the number 1 habit, the one that made everything else stick, and it's deeply Japanese. Wa-dai wa, harmony. Now before you roll your eyes, I'm not saying be a pushover. I'm saying Japan has a cultural obsession with reducing friction. Social friction, environmental friction, timing friction, and when you adopt that as a daily habit, your life becomes easier in ways that feel almost supernatural. Because friction is expensive, friction costs time, energy, money, sleep, relationships. Why is the habit of noticing friction early and smoothing it out while it's still small? Throughout the day, why looks like this. You don't leave messes for future you. You don't send unclear messages that force 5 follow-ups. You don't play loud chaos in shared space. You don't block pathways, literally or emotionally. You don't escalate a minor annoyance into a dramatic fight. You don't dump your stress onto others as a lifestyle. You choose actions that keep the whole system, your home, your work, your relationships running clean. When I started practicing wa consciously, I realized how much of my stress came from tiny conflicts I kept creating. Rushing, interrupting, being messy, being vague, letting resentment build, saying yes when I meant no, then being mad about it later. Wa fixed that by making me proactive. I started doing micro repairs, clarify expectations, apologize fast when needed, close loops, put things back, clean as I go, speak with more softness, plan a little earlier. And this is big. Stop making everything a battle. And the most people don't know part is that harmony is a performance enhancer. When your environment is harmonious, you focus better. When your relationships are harmonious, you sleep better. When your schedule has fewer collisions, your body feels safer. Safety is the foundation of good decisions. Most people are making decisions while their nervous system is screaming. Wow turns the volume down. I also adopted the Japanese habit of thinking about the next person, even when the next person is me tomorrow morning. That's harmony across time. You wash the cup now, so tomorrow is easy. You charge the battery now, so tomorrow isn't panic. You reply clearly now, so tomorrow doesn't become chaos. And once you live that way, you realize why Japan's daily life can feel so smooth when it's working well. Not perfect, not magical, just designed around the idea that harmony is not a vibe, it's a practice. And when you practice it, you don't just feel better, you become harder to knock off course. That's why it's number one.